Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Big Decisions for Anfield Index. It's a testing time, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? It's an exciting time. Liverpool are top of every table you can mention. There's January around the corner. Some players are back for injury, some players are concerning us, and some, well, they're just elite, aren't they? But we've got to make a number of big decisions tonight, and that is exactly what we'll be doing. I'm Dave Davis, coming to you from miserable Edinburgh. It is absolutely chucking it down. It is freezing cold. It is getting towards that Christmas feel, but in a good way. I'm delighted to be joined by AI regular, rivalry host Hari Sethi. Hari, how's the weather where you are, my friend?
It's not as miserable, I guess, as Edinburgh, but I'm down in London, right? It's still pretty, dark at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., cold. Big coat season. I think you'd call it probably.
That is exactly what I'd call it. You'll see all the mums walking around in what we like to refer to as Wenger jackets, don't we, people? To be honest, it's that time of year. Pumpkin spice lattes, the lot. But enough with the rival stuff. Enough with the general chit chat. Hari, ready to make some big decisions, my mate, and decide what we're going to do on certain things. So, ladies and gents, you know the format. We introduce topics, we make big calls on it, we debate, we challenge, throw in your comments at the same time as we know you like to. So, first topic on the docket here, Hari. The January window this is crazy to say, it's literally a couple of weeks away till that January transfer window opens.
Yeah.
Is this the biggest window for Liverpool for some time, in your opinion?
It's hard to say, Kim. I think we always end up working ourselves into not a frenzy, but a state. I think every window comes along as it's an opportunity here, got to take it. And such is the way in which I think football has evolved, right? And online commentary around football has evolved. That you're analyzing everything, but I think there's been a couple of different January windows now for this Liverpool side over the past few seasons where it's felt like when there's an opportunity to be taken and the side's doing well, why not look to give them a boost? Why not look to address some of the small issues that you have been dealing with, just to give yourself the best possible chance to win that competition? I'm not saying it's going to guarantee it. Maybe sometimes you'll make that decision and it ultimately still will not prove enough for you to get over the line. But at least you can say you tried. At least you can say we addressed that. It didn't work out, whatever. Or you address it and it gives you a boost. And we can think about recent. We don't do a lot of business in January, but we can think about the January business that we do tend to do, and it tends to have a big impact on the squad. I mean, from stalwarts like Van Dijk through to even thinking about the fairly recent Luis Diaz signing in January. I think that gave everybody a real kind of boost at that point in time, and I think it was a valuable one. So I think, given the opportunity that we find ourselves with, and it's one I think none of us were expecting at the start of the season. Let's not be complacent now. Let's give the manager as much help as possible. He didn't get a lot in the summer. Let's see what we can do for him. And I think it's. I'm sure there's names on lists. I'm sure there's people that we could be adding to just to supplement the squad.
Yeah, I noticed you carefully left out Ben Davis from that esteemed January list of all the players that have been in that time as well. I suppose, I mean, I agree with you because there'll always be a frenzy and transfers will always sell. It's funny in modern football, not in a derogatory way, but modern football, it is some of the sexy stuff. I completely get that. And listen, we would love, like you said, a signing, Hari, just to boost everything would be absolutely massive all round. You talked about it, you're right, it will give a boost. Would you understand the fans that would say, listen, if you should always reinforce from a position of strength, that's a proven, strategy across the board for top teams. Could you understand the fans that said, if you don't reinforce that, A, it's a massive risk and you almost give it, open to injuries. We see how the squad's getting stretched. And B, actually, if you don't, you've then got to win the biggest prizes because you've got even zero excuse come the end of the season because you didn't take that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I think one of the pushbacks you sometimes get when it comes to January window and do you make a signing? And sometimes people will point to, look how well the team's doing, top of all the leagues, like you mentioned at the start of the show. You don't want to disrupt things too much. Bring somebody else in who might have that kind of influence, or it's a really nice kind of group. And I think, yeah, I certainly hear that. But when you look at the way in which Liverpool tend to recruit players in general, there's unofficial questions on that kind of sheet as well around, is it going to be somebody who's got a good character, who's going to come into that dressing room, not be a bad apple or anything like that, disrupt people, be a bad influence. I can't think of the last one. It's a very long time ago since we can even think about players who may have been a bad influence or whatever. So I'm not particularly worried about that, because I'd imagine the club will do their due diligence on whoever may come through. And I think, you only have to look at the defensive injuries and the kind of tightrope that we're walking at the moment. And we're still managing to put together results and be successful. But I think you don't want to take a risk with those situations. And then the other area of the pitch that I think is pretty obvious, right, is the midfield area.
Yeah.
And the only reason why, I think we're good in terms of numbers, in terms of midfield, and in terms of the players that we have available to cover the roles that exist. But it's pretty clear at this stage that the manager doesn't really view two of the players, at least anyway, as being in contention for first team competitions, Champions League, the Premier League. And so I hear what people say, not suggesting that you go out and find this big money defensive midfielder signing or Zubimendi or someone like that to come in, because then perhaps that would be a little bit a bit of disruption, right? Grav's done so well. Curtis Jones, you're going to suddenly drag them out and take the opportunity away from them. I'm not saying that, but I think a midfielder who can run and do a good job and who we think has got room to grow and improve, maybe even somebody on the younger side, right? But someone that we would be comfortable with putting in for the odd game, or the odd 20, 30 minutes here or there, to safeguard the legs of the likes of Grav, Dom, Mac, Curtis, who are all having to work incredibly hard. And so I think that's the one for me that I'd be looking at and thinking, can we be opportunistic here and get somebody in just to give Slot the option to feel like you can rest one of those players?
Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of names, as you said, mentioned. Zubimendi is the only one that we know Slot actually wants, that obviously everyone at the relevant hierarchy agree on. No one's fully sure if he is available in January, but you do suspect if there is a chance, they will absolutely pull the trigger on that one. I was going to ask you as well, Harry, January, because you mentioned midfield. I'm just asking about the positions, because Liverpool never do a number. I know fans would love a number. I get people would say, I'd love this, I'd love that. Probably midfield and full-back, left-back, especially the two that fans are really looking at right now. Yeah. If you could only do one, where are you steering towards?
This is what, left-back or midfield, were you saying?
Midfield, yeah.
I think at this stage, I would be going for midfield, just because I think, yes, we've seen sort of the decline maybe in sort of Robertson's far from his peak now, but he's there. And I think also Tsimikas, you'd like to think is going to be returning from injury pretty soon. And then you have two from that position. And then when Konate comes back, then you have the ability to maybe put Gomez back into that rotation as well, that he can cover if really needed. And so I think numbers-wise, you probably have that there. Whereas I think midfield, I think it's so crucial to us that the midfield positions remain fresh and that they are capable of being switched on in these games that are going to be the ones that decide the title for us this season. And I don't want the likes of Mac or the likes of Jones, Szoboszlai, especially Grav as well, showing the clear signs of fatigue. And I think one thing that, Sai's mentioned it, right, on Under Pressure, the Under Pressure guys have mentioned it a bunch. No matter what we do, a whole bunch of these players are going to blast through what they've done in their entire careers. Yeah. So if we don't add somebody just to give them a bit of a rest every now and then, we are really sticking our finger in the socket, uncharted territory. We have no idea what could happen once these players enter that kind of period where they're way beyond what they've done before in their careers. So, yeah.
Big risk there. Yeah. Paul Smith saying we're not good in terms of numbers when it comes to no quality to drive us to the title. I think, Paul, we were saying there, and just to be clear, Harry, I thought, sort of went through the full sort of detail. We're both looking to bring a midfielder in. There's no two ways about it. It'd be a huge boost. Harry makes a great point as well. Some of these boys are set to smash records now. Slot's not done much rotation, as many people have talked about as well. One more in the midfield would be huge. And listen, some people might want left back, some people might want different positions. We'd love it to happen. But yeah, similar to you, Harry, I just feel like I'll ask you the final one around this. We'll have our opinions. We'd love them to do a midfielder, as we say. Do you think they'll do anything?
I've been of the opinion for a while that they wouldn't. And I don't know why. I maybe just got grown a little bit cynical about the January windows over the years. I've got to admit, and we'll probably talk about this as one of the big decisions, right? But my focus, my primary focus, has been on those contracts and has been looking at those contracts. And I think I spoke to you a while ago, and we were speaking about some of the questions that we'd asked some of the journalists and Paul Joyce and the likes on these topics. But I just can't see a situation where Liverpool allow that to get to January, where these players are theoretically able to talk to clubs abroad, and I just don't see why you'd let it get to that stage. Personally, so I've always been of the opinion that there has to be some sort of internal deadline that they've got. All right, we're going to wrap this up by this stage. Nice Christmas announcement. Get the engagement on the socials. Top for Christmas. Here's your presents, and there's the new contracts. That would be my. If you're working in the social media side of the club, that's probably the best way you could do it. So I think my focus has been on those. I imagine the club's focus is heavily on those 3 contracts as well. But that doesn't excuse the fact that you think that's long-term planning. That's stuff that you've known you've had to deal with. What's new and what being opportunistic and being able to think on your feet is the opportunity we have right now. The club doing so well, the squad showing that actually, when you look at the rivals that we've got in this league, we can maybe actually, it's looking like we've got a strong chance for the title. Why leave it to risk? I think try and bolster the squad where you can, be opportunistic. And I think some of those other positions that we mentioned, left back, centre backs, maybe even the forward that might come in. I think that is stuff that I would be okay with saying, okay, get to the summer window and then address those positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in agreement, people. 1 would be massive. And I think we're in agreement as well, as you said it, Harry. I hope we don't try and get hoodwinked. What I mean by that at all, or they don't think that, we're that foolish. It is possible to do contracts and transfers at the same time. The narrative can't come that, no, we renewed the contract, so that's it. Like, people can multitask, and we know the money was there from the summer. So hopefully that doesn't come up. But contracts as Christmas presents and a January boost would be absolutely massive. So the big decision on that, people, we'll debate if it's the biggest window in some time, but it's a huge one. And we're both agreeing you cannot lose the opportunity. We will see what happens there. Hopefully it's not a case of famous last words by any means. Moving to the next one, Harry. This one. Who are the real rivals? Now, I am kind of enjoying this a little bit at the moment because I know where you live in the world. Arsenal fans seem to be struggling with the reality a little bit of what's going on and where they stand. But different teams and even our fan base seem to have different impressions of who the real rivals are. So we've got the table there on the screen. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to look at currently. Liverpool top on 36 points. Chelsea 2 behind, having played a game more. Arsenal 6 behind, having played a game more. And crazy to say, Harry, down in 5th place on 27 points, 9 behind, having played a game more, is Manchester City. Now, I'll do this one by one, just so we can sort of see who we're knocking them down, like guess who a little bit. Manchester City, Harry, are they in the title race at all still for you?
No for me. No for me at this stage. I think you can see, undoubtedly they are the side that you can look at and go, who are the side that's capable of going on those runs, have got the pedigree, have got that ability. We know that. They've caused us pain over the years, heartache over the years, and how they've shown their ability to do that. I think they cannot do that at the moment. And I think that they cannot even get back to their baseline level at the moment. That's the focus for them. And it's very reminiscent of what we went through as Liverpool fans in that 22-23 season, where a number of stalwarts have sort of fallen off a little bit physically. And just that slight drop can have a drastic impact. They've lost somebody who was covering up for a multitude of kind of sins in Rodri, similar-esque to sort of what Fabinho was doing for us at times. And what you're seeing as well is a group of players they've not been used to this for a very long time. They're dealing with it for the very first time in their career, and a manager who's not used to this at all, who's trying to figure it out and knows he has to figure it out, and he's getting more and more kind of rugged every week. The knitwear's getting chunkier, the beard is getting sort of more disheveled, and it's a real quandary. And we saw, let's be fair, we saw the similar thing happen to Klopp in terms of him.
Yeah,
he knew he was the right guy to turn it around. I'm gonna turn it around. Like, trust me, I'm gonna turn it around. But there were definitely weeks where we turned up and we watched the game and went, maybe he will turn it around, but at the moment he doesn't currently know how to. And I think what we're seeing is a side scratching around to try and find a way back to their baseline. So yeah, long answer, but it feels weird to say it even at this stage of the season, but I don't see them competing for the title if we're going to be maintaining the form that we've shown as well.
Yeah, I mean, it will be an unbelievable achievement if they even get close to 90 points, to be honest, or where it'll be at the moment. And like you said, I think we've got the experience of being there, as in we've had stars for us, players that we've adored, whose legs have just gone. The one thing you can't cheat is time. We've seen it, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. A lot of players in that City side, just their legs seem to have all gone at the same time, and you can't replicate that. And I know people will be saying January, they could still go again, but then how far behind? How are they going to implicate, those players? How almost, say, for want of a better phrase, how damaged are some of the ones currently at the moment? Because they looked shell-shocked and beaten in a different way against United. So yeah, that is, for me, we're scratching them off. North London, Harry, Arsenal.
Yeah.
6 points behind us. We've got a game in hand over them. Now, if you listen to a lot of Arsenal fans, they're well in it. They're well on for it. They're going to go on record-beating form. Arsenal for you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's no secret, right? I'm from that part of the world. Lots of my friends' family are Arsenal fans. Like I said, I've said on previous rival recons, on episodes of Raw with Trev and Dave, the varying levels of how loud the WhatsApp group gets, how quiet it gets. It's all quiet at the moment. Not much chat coming from that from those groups rather. And I think I've seen the friends that I know and are close about it pretty despondent about it already. Actually, in terms of they thought they were a different side only a few months ago. These same people very bullish about their chances, about what this side was and what they could do. And I've always tried to be a bit of, not tried to, I've just been a bit of a dampener for some of my mates in that corner of the world, just around. I've never believed it. I've clearly an excellent side, clearly a title-winning side in other seasons, in other eras. I've never felt like they've had enough world-class quality in their side to get across the line. And I think that's what they're starting to see now, is there are world-class players in that squad, but they're lacking maybe one or two just to really get them over the line. I don't think the goalkeeper, for example, is an elite-level goalkeeper. Saliba may well prove to be an elite-level centre-back in time. Saka, I think, is clearly on his way. Ødegaard looks like a great talent. They're missing that piece up front, aren't they? They're missing that elite goal scorer or winger on the other side. Far too much pressure on the likes of Saka and Ødegaard to produce, and the rest have just not proven themselves prolific enough. And I think you're seeing that kind of pressure on them now, the pressure on the manager as well, as another one who hasn't proven himself as well, we have to say. Should be applauded for the progress he's got. Absolutely. So I'm always saying to my Arsenal friends as well, like, we're not completely hating on you. Since you clearly made huge strides, but is he enough? Is he going to be winning you a title? I'm not sure he is. I think he's a manager who likes to be risk averse, to minimize risk, and Rafa's blanket analogy, right? You can only pull the duvet over so much of yourself. You do need to loosen up a little bit at times and take those risks. And we saw Klopp, was one of the ultimate risk takers. We played high wire football at times because we knew that we'd rather take the risk for the payoff than have a 0-0 draw against Everton at home. So Arsenal for me, still capable of being challengers. I think I'm not going to rule them out of the challenge yet, but with every passing game, they look like they don't have it in them.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I'm not from that part of the world, but I see the fan base from Arsenal, and they don't help themselves, I would say, is what a lot of people will put it under, like the way they proclaim certain things. I think from the pure maths, Arsenal needs 60 points to hit a 90-point season. And we don't know for definite that will be the marker as we're saying it, but you have those suspicions. They only have 22 games left to get that, and they're not actually going at 2 points a game at the moment, where they're pretty much winning nearly all their remaining games to go to that. So I think that's a factor. As you said, you just wonder about goals, because goals hide a multitude of sins, and we have got goals in our side from six forwards, various areas. It does hide sins, especially when you're playing well. They just don't have it in them. And I think also, as you said, we're seeing a manager who's uber cautious, relying on set pieces. I never thought I would see this in my time. We'd see a mural for a set piece coach. I thought I'd seen everything in football, but when I'm seeing a mural for a set piece coach, you ask questions about certain things. So I'm like you, I'm not going to rule them out completely, but they're relying on snookers, so to speak. They're relying on a monumental collapse from a couple of teams. So we will see. And then that only really leaves a surprise from everyone. They're trying to play it down. Enzo Maresca is adamant they're not title contenders, but they are, as you see, the form team right now. A game more, yes, but only 2 points. Harry, are you putting Chelsea in the mix?
It's a tough one. I think we all watch football in different ways at times, and with all the podcasts on Anfield Index, and it gives you different ways to watch games. Like you can do a raw emotional kind of reaction with the shows that we do. There's also the analytical side of things, looking at the numbers, and I think a good balance is probably the best way to approach it. And if you listen to the numbers purely, listen to the guys who give you those encouraging stats about Liverpool and how many points it's going to take and things like that. The numbers they point to is that Chelsea's defensive numbers do not indicate that they're going to be a side that's going to go the distance and be a title-winning side. They concede far too many chances each game. And what we're seeing is a little bit about what we mentioned with Arsenal. Chelsea take more risks, and they have goal scorers in their side, and goals hide a multitude of sins. You can get away with it for quite a while. I don't quite think their attack is the same level. I saw some people comparing them to Liverpool, 13, 14. So I don't think they're anywhere near that attack in terms of Suarez, Sturridge, or Sterling at the time. Coutinho, I can't remember, was involved. And I just don't think that side is there. I think they've got great talents in Parma. They've got that youthful kind of exuberance as well. There's lots of players there who've not had to live through much loss in footballing terms, so they will keep going, and they have a couple of advantages to them as well that other sides don't. The army of a squad that they have, into sort of the sheer size of it, it allows them to do stuff like completely rotate their side for the Conference League that they're in. I think they've got Shamrock Rovers coming up, and I don't expect to see a first teamer in the squad really. And they're able to do that, and it's such a luxury to do that, especially in December of all months, right? You can rest your entire first team, so that's a big advantage for them. That's going to keep their players fresh for longer. And then I think there's a lack of pressure, and again, that's what the manager's trying to do as well: keep the pressure off them. We're not title contenders, as you always see from those kind of clubs that are unexpectedly come into it. But for me, I just don't see enough in that squad. Well, also the goalkeeper as well, Robert Sanchez. I don't think you're winning a league with that guy in goal or that defense. So what I think we're seeing right now is a side that's rebuilt itself from where it was, and it was in a bad place last season. good manager, some consistency here, good players, and maybe the re-solidification of like a top four Chelsea, right? You know, they're back in contention. They have more firepower than Arsenal, and that might take them above Arsenal this season when it comes to the going the distance. They've got a good run now as well. The fixtures are pretty generous to them for a while, so I don't expect to see them go anywhere for a while, actually, unless they do some of that defensive variance comes back into play. So for me, I think we could be talking about them for a while longer, but I don't believe it in the same way. They haven't got that ruthlessness that you see from a side like City, for example, in the past, or to be fair to them, a side like Arsenal of seasons old, where I remember Arsenal last season, just the defense was so good that you just thought they're always going to give themselves a chance. I mean, if they're just not conceding anything at all, they're going to give themselves a chance. But I think not sustainable for me.
No, it sounds crazy to say. I mean, if the league where Robert Sanchez is the title-winning goalkeeper, there's probably questions to be asked of the other side and how they've done it, as you mentioned for the first part. You know, considering they've signed, I think, 6 goalkeepers in the last 2 years, how Robert Sanchez is the best one is maybe a different question.
They still have the record, right? They still have the record for the most expensive goalkeeper in the league's history, who's currently on loan at Bournemouth.
Absolutely crazy. Steve L puts their current betting odds. We are 8-11 on Chelsea, 3-1, Arsenal 7-2. I think as well as you say with Chelsea, they will batter some teams in the recent future. There will be a few where they win handsomely, and people will be like, "Oh, Chelsea, the real deal." I'm like you though, Harry. I'm just getting the feeling we'll see a result where, and I'm making it up now, but they'll 2-2 at home to Bournemouth because they concede a rubbish goal or a rubbish couple of goals or something like that. They've got that blip in them. So, yeah, it sounds like, and I know people will be saying, hold on, you're writing off everyone. It's no procession for us. So, the big decision, Harry, where is Liverpool's biggest challenge going to come from?
Right now, I think I would... I think I would keep Chelsea in there. I think I would, just because whilst the defensive numbers aren't what we think is enough to win a league, I think it's what they're showing on the attacking side and the advantage that I mentioned about being able to rotate, keep their players fresh, size of their squad. They'd have to worry about Conference League football. I mean, they're battering everybody in that competition. They don't have to worry about and their kids are battering everybody, so they don't have to worry about that competition having an adverse effect. I think they're already out of one cup, aren't they? Already? I think I forget.
Yeah.
So even less to worry about. I think that the circumstances around them will keep them there or thereabouts for quite a while, unless Arsenal rediscover form in front of goal. If that's the case, then Arsenal's defense is better, and they will. I think over time, Arsenal will get some of that room back in terms of sort of climbing up the table. But attacks can really protect you for quite a long time. But in my opinion, even I've thought the opposite for many seasons in the past. It's usually your defense that wins you a league.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I do think Chelsea. I still think back to that Chelsea team that won the league with no European competition. As you said, they're in the conference. They're not taking it seriously. They don't really need to take it seriously as well. There's a huge squad, so it is almost like they have no European football. They're managing it well. I just think ultimately, as you said, Harry, there's a few too many things that you question. And also, if Cole Palmer went out for a period, you would have massive questions about who is going to make it happen for Chelsea at the same time as well.
Yeah, and worth mentioning Nicholas Jackson as well. Actually, I have to say, I mean, he's really improved. If they lost him actually for a period of time, I think it sounds weird to say, I think they'd struggle a little bit as well. He's really popped up for them when needed.
Yeah, it's weird. And Nkunku especially doesn't seem to be fancied particularly by Maresca. Maybe it's Jackson's pace, the stretch, who knows what it is, but that does seem to be the popular thing. So that's big decision number 2, ladies and gents. We do think it might be Chelsea on the docket, but let's turn it back to Liverpool. And there's some players we want to talk about, Harry. And this one, I mean, Ryan Gravenberch. I mean, you look at the stats that Anfield Index tweeted. As it said from this, he topped against Fulham, the work rate charts, tackles, interceptions. He surprised everyone. No one thought in 2023, when we got this guy from Bayern Munich, that he would be doing what he's doing right this minute. I don't think anyone thought he'd be as good a centre-half as he was on Saturday as well. How important is Ryan Gravenberch now to Liverpool?
Well, yeah, I think right now, to Slot's Liverpool, this incarnation of Slot's Liverpool, he's vital. He's absolutely vital. I mean, there's nobody else that we have that can do that role in the way in which Slot would like at the moment. I mean, I think there's still questions to be asked long term. Would Slot want somebody else to come in and do a job and then actually free Gravenberch up for another role in that midfield? He's certainly capable given his skill set. But no, right now, just is completely crucial. I think there's the role that he does, just the levels that he's shown. I think I wasn't writing him off last season, but what you saw was an inconsistent player, really young talent, incredibly highly rated, and I think you always have to be really careful about questioning the attitude of players in terms of sort of like, do they want it enough? And you can often see pretty lazy stuff, right? Like bandied about that stuff. But I think what you've seen is a player who needed rescuing at the time. So he comes from Bayern Munich. I think Klopp was the kind of right guy to rescue him, sort of like put that confidence back in him. But then Slot's come in. Like, of course, they're sharing a native tongue helps a lot, and actually being able to communicate in that way. And I think what we've seen from Slot, and just about how clear his instructions are, he's given the player the direction that he needs as well. So it's really great to see. I think whenever you see a player who has that potential start to believe in themselves, get the opportunity, and then take it, I think he's gone way beyond what I thought he would be capable of this season so far. And I thought actually the last game against Fulham is worth highlighting. Just unbelievable performance to actually go into that kind of situation. Like you can say, he's moved to centre back for whatever reason, but doing it in a game where you're going down to 10 men, your goal behind, with the pressure that's on you, I thought he was magnificent, to be honest. So I don't think he's still not the perfect fit in that role. He's still learning and can grow, which is, I guess, what's exciting, right? But right now, one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, I genuinely, it's almost crazy to think that at the start of this summer, there were links, I think, to Galatasaray and clubs like that, and loans and talk. And I think a lot of people were like, because if we get one off the books, then Zubamendi would come in, etc., etc. It's absolutely crazy to think how big that turnaround is to how we view him now. And exactly as you said, against Fulham, we can't undersell just how good he was in a multitude of positions, covering a multitude of issues there for us at the same time. So much to like. I suppose the bit on the midfield then, the final question, the big decision, because it's important we called out Gravenberch.
Yeah.
If a midfielder was to have a serious issue at all, Harry, who's the one you'd have the most concern about? I.e., if insert name was out for the rest of the season, that's the biggest midfield blow.
Still be McAllister for me, actually, just because for all we've praised Gravenberch there and says one of the first names on the team sheet, I think tactically, I'm not suggesting any of these players are unintelligent, but I think McAllister is one of the most intelligent players in our side. You can see that when he plays, and I do think without him in that midfield, we'd look a little bit looser, and like the spacing's not as great. Other players are trying to make up for some deficiencies, and sometimes you see people being capable of playing through us in a way that you're not really not super comfortable with. So I still think that he would be the biggest loss for us this season, just because I don't think there's anybody who can kind of dovetail on his role, but that intelligence in that unit of the pitch, I think when he's in midfield with Gravenberch, and then it's obviously a case of, is it going to be Szoboszlai or Jones? But those two together, I think it's the unit of those two that I think was responsible for a lot of our early season form, along with Ibu and Virgil as well.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree. I do think Alexis McAllister is our best midfielder. I think, as you mentioned there as well, the first yard, as they say, is in the head, and he is easily our smartest midfielder, as in he can play the three different positions. And he just brings, I think he almost knits it together that you see the other three, that they're probably better physically. There's no doubts about that. They can cover a wider pitch. I know people looked at the Emirates away as an example, but we're talking about the guy who's got that game intelligence and football IQ, for want of a better phrase. So, yeah, as good as Gravenberch's been, and he has been absolutely sensational this season, people, he is important to us, but we are saying Alexis McAllister is still Liverpool's most important midfielder. We're making big calls. We're making them fast now. Diogo Jota. I mean, this was a magnificent performance, really. That this sort of cameo where he proves almost that Steven Gerrard reincarnate for a period, Harry. The sort of brilliant in midfield, winning the ball, best attacking midfielder, knitting the 10-man together, and then the best finisher probably at the club as well. Absolutely sensational in this cameo against Fulham. The only thing that's sad about these figures, really, when you look at 11 appearances, 5 goals, 2 assists, is the fact they're all just not doubled, basically, that it's not, 22 games, 10, that's the type of thing. Diogo Jota, him staying fit, could that be the difference between success or not this season?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what we saw at the start of the season, the way in which Slot gravitated towards him as the option that he wanted up there, just because of what he can do when he comes to dropping deep, some of the positions he takes up. And the really important thing that if you're going to have a system where your centre forward does get fewer opportunities, when they get them, you need them to take them. And it was a really interesting debates over the past couple of weeks about Darwin. And I think he's a player who can create a lot of chances for himself, given his physical talents, the speed, loves to live on the shoulder. And I think in another side, as you've seen in previous incarnations of Liverpool, gets 10 chances, maybe misses 6, but also might score 4. Like, that kind of guy. And that's fine if you're using a certain kind of system. And I still think that he's a much better player than sometimes people give him credit for. But Jota possessing that ability that when he does get a chance, you'll likely take it. I know what some of the stats say about them this season and how it's not a huge amount of difference, but I think he's been deprived of minutes as well and getting used to this new kind of role in the system. Massive. If he stays fit now until the end of the season, touch wood, I think that's a huge advantage for Liverpool in terms of getting over the line and getting that title, because this is a guy who, as we saw, in terms of the cameo, he was everywhere, very involved, bustling around. But that opportunity told you everything you needed to know, really, wasn't it? Like the first touch to create space for himself. And then what we've said multiple times about Darwin as well, and like, you don't always have to hit the corners. Like, it's not always about that. Like, and at times you're looking at Darwin and thinking, he's really overthinking this. The technique is good. He's hit it hard. He's hit it firm. He's thought about that. Whereas with Jota, at times it seems like second nature, that he might scuff it, he might shank it. Like the goal at the weekend, it's not like it was in the corner of the goal. He just gave the keeper the eyes, sent him the wrong way, and gets that goal. So I think, massively important to us. I think Arsenal thought they had a Jota when it came to sort of Trossard and sort of the role he does for them. I think Jota's a step above, and fingers crossed that he's able to stay fit. I would remind people that like, he didn't get injured because of some sort of chronic issue that he had. Right, someone fell on him. Yes, it feels like that always happens to Diogo, but I remember a time when Curtis Jones was also seemed to be picking up the weirdest injuries on the planet, and again, touch wood, but he's put things together now more recently. So whatever it needs, like, let's get him doing the hot Pilates with Mo, drinking mate with Alexis, whatever it needs for him to stay fit, but would be a massive boost for us for between now and end of the season, especially this month, actually.
Huge month, yeah, when he could really be the difference. Helio Matis there saying, Jota won't stay fit. It's like Las Vegas. You may be lucky, but the stats make you lose in the end. Well, let's see if we can be the house this way as well. Also, Helio C saying that it's nearly Christmas. Our two strikers combined to produce 5 goals. If it wasn't for Salah, we would be top 10 instead of top 3. The system's difficult for these strikers, do you not think, Harry? Or it's a bit, I'm sometimes unsure, I'll be honest, exactly what Slot's looking for.
Yeah, no. So I've often been critical of the other forwards in that, please give Mo some help here. Please convert your chances. Don't leave it all up to him. Yes, he's a phenom. We are watching one of the best players ever to play in the league. So always great to have one of those in your side. Really, shouldn't complain about it. He's one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League. He plays for us and he scores goals for us. So it's like that's a great thing. And also, I hear what they're saying around, if you take him out of the team, where does that leave us? Yeah, if you take out a team's best player, generally speaking, they're going to be significantly worse. 100%. I would like there to be less pressure on Mo to have to deliver the goods time and time again. It's been very frustrating watching Darwin have this tough period in front of goal, and it's been going on for a while now, right? So, in terms of players that we know can take some of that burden off, Cody's proving it more and more these days.
Yeah.
Diaz showed his ability to do it as well, and Jota, we know Jota can do that as well. And what I'm excited about as well, one thing that we could think about is if Jota returning, could it also help Nunez in a weird way as well? Because I have seen the two of them link up pretty well, and having someone like Jota play with Nunez could actually free him up a little bit more to actually have different kinds of opportunities. So it's only a good thing to have him back. And we'll keep our fingers crossed, light the sage, and hope he's staying fit to the end of the season.
Yeah, it almost feels unfair at times to bring people alongside Mo. Mo is an elite talent. We're talking one of the world's best players, if not arguably the world's best players. So it almost feels like you've got to put him in a different league, a different plateau from the rest. But it will come down, you feel, to how well can the supporting cast do their job. I mean, it's crazy to say that Diaz and Gakpo now, especially, Gakpo, 7 in his last 10, 9 goals, 2 assists, the identical record of Luis Diaz now as well. And almost if you combine those two together, you probably nearly get Mo Salah, don't you? So if those two can just combine to be a Mo Salah largely, and then Darwin and Jota now, but you do feel like the supporting cast have got to stay fit, with Diogo Jota being absolutely key in that. So there we go, ladies and gents. Diogo Jota, we do feel he's got to be the difference. Fullback talk. These two are dominating a lot of chatter right now, and I wouldn't say it's a positive one as we talk about this. Trent, Harry. I've seen Trent get a lot of stick for the weekend, and I want to balance this first of all. I'm not saying he played well by any means. I think he had a poor game, and I think he could do better, possibly on both the goals, truth be told, stopping the cross and the second one for tracking back. I also want to offer up mitigation that he is coming back from injury. So there was that. 10 men. Also, I think Trent's done best this season where we say to Trent, you just be the best right back in the world and don't invert. Whereas this game, he kind of had to be half of both before I felt his legs went as well. People are directing this towards the contract element, and is his heart in it? Does he want to be the... We know all that talk as well. The big decision at the moment, Harry, is Trent. Is it all these factors people talk about, or is it just a case of the vice captain's coming back from injury?
For me, it's probably the latter. I think. Let's be fair. I think people are hurt a little bit that he's not signed the contract yet. That he might actually end up running down his contract and leaving and going somewhere else. And I think we're just looking. I think some people are looking for an excuse to actually to criticize him, to actually make themselves feel a little bit better about it. Like, yeah, sure, go. He's not the best. Whatever. He's clearly a generational talent on the ball. He's capable of being an incredibly effective right back as well. His form this season has been excellent. The vast majority of performances from him this season have been doing what Slot has wanted him to do. He's shown multiple times defending 1v1 that he's capable of doing it, as we sort of knew he was. It's a question of enthusiasm. It's a question of desire and fitness. And yeah, for me, I'm willing to look past a game like the one against Fulham, where, like you say, it quickly descended into something different. Sending off early on, going down, players popping up in all sorts of positions. Really enjoyed the Van Dijk hybrid centre forward role for about a good 10 minutes there. Was enjoying that, to be honest. But the game called for that into the sort of weird kind of decisions. And I think what I'm happy about is that I know from everything that the player has said and from everything that Slot has said, what we know Slot wants him to be doing and what he values more than anything else. So if you think for 1 minute that he's going to come off the pitch and go, "Oh, I can get away with this now," it's not going to be the case. I think Slot will probably look at it and go, "Yeah, given what I was asking him to do, I can expect that level to drop off." But if it happens again, for example, it happens a couple of games in a row, that's when I'd start to be more concerned by it. Because there were moments, for sure, there were moments in that game against Fulham where it didn't look like he was running back full pelt. He wasn't running back full pelt, and maybe that's because, let's put the possibilities out there. Maybe he's lazy and doesn't care. I don't think it's that. Maybe his head's already in Madrid. He doesn't care if Liverpool win the league. I think he cares, and he may still re-sign as well. And I think it was just a case of a player sort of realizing, given where they were fitness-wise, they couldn't, and the fact that they were still, how many minutes did we play? 80-odd minutes with 10 men. They had to manage themselves. They had to. So for me, that's likely what it is. And we almost got away with it, to be honest. I still think, unfortunately, Quansah comes out with a fair sort of portion of blame for that second goal and not throwing his body in the way you would have hoped. Trent involved in the first for sure, but for me, it's easy for us to go, "Oh, his head's been turned." I think we were all anxious for him to sign that contract. I would be shocked personally. I think a player like him, with the connections to the club, running down his contract to leave on a free and give the club nothing after they've made him effectively, I think would be a move that there are plenty of examples of players making that move and it not working out. So you'd hope he's aware of those as well.
Yeah, I agree largely with that. I think what I had in mind when he came off the field, as you said about Arne Slot, I had a feeling that Arne Slot will have about 9 or 10 video clips he'll be showing Trent over the next few days of, this is where you should have been, this is where your body positioning, here's where you should have closed Robinson down, all those types of things. I have no doubt he will be picking him up on his performance. At the same time, if every time one of our elite three, and I want to refer to them that way because Trent, Virgil and Mo are elite in their positions. We're not just talking about top, elite players. If every time any of them don't hit like top performances, are we just going to go, it's the contract situation. It's going to be a long old season if we keep doing that. Hopefully not in a way, naturally, because we resolve those three, don't get me wrong, but it is going to be like, it can almost just be a stick there with no real purpose to beat them with at times. I agree. I also thought Quansah should have done better. I don't think he escapes blame at all. And there is mitigation for Trent, people. We're both agreeing that. At the same time, there is fault for him in this game, but we can't just keep going to contracts every single time. It's not at the field, or it is going to be a long, old period. You're going to be having kittens in January, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I said earlier on, right? I just can't see you allowing this to get into next year with it unresolved. I think yes, given his age, given the connection to the club, that's why this is the one that's a bit more kind of painful. I expect Mo and Virgil to. I think that's a simpler discussion. Trent has options, right? And I think this is the one that's more complicated as a result. And yeah, I think it does become emotional for people. Also, we have to sort of factor in that there has been 3 to 4 seasons of pretty exerted character kind of assassination of Trent by pundits across the league, and who've emphasized this constantly. Just like so it's become a narrative, and that's why I've enjoyed this season, where he's basically proven no, I I can do all that. I can do the other stuff as well. So I'm trying to stretch myself rather than being Ben White or something like that.
Yeah. Funnily enough, the criticism doesn't quite seem to have been as loud around Kyle Walker and his season as it's been for Trent. But yeah, different discussion for a different day. And the final player on the docket for tonight, Harry, Robbo.
Yeah.
I mean, you will know this is the furore on social media. I almost seen like extreme camps either side. And I kind of get it. I mean, let's put the normal stuff on the table. Robbo for 8 million, one of the signings of the century, if not, in the conversation for greatest ever signings. At his peak, world class, a Liverpool legend, won it all. Let's just get the basic stuff people seem to think everyone's going against off on the table. The one side I see is the extreme of he's done all this, he's great. Like, how are people to turn it as though everyone's like lambasting him or wanting him publicly flogged or anything like that? I think that's nonsense. I think analysis tells me that if I'm factual, he has given away 2 penalties and a red card in his last 4 games. What I've seen, my eye test this season, has not been great from Robbo. He is another year older. His contract is reducing, and people will have debates about, is he even Liverpool's best left back right now as we sit here? I know Kostas Tsimikas isn't fit before people say that, but if he is, the impact on that. Where are you standing right now on Robbo with me unloading all that into the mix for you?
Yeah, I was having a conversation about Robbo actually a couple of days ago. I think it was on Blue Sky, just talking about the player and what were the player's options as I saw them, and what should the club do as well. And I think it's fair to say now that he's no longer the best first choice left back at Liverpool. I think it is Kostas when Kostas is fit, because of Kostas's physical capacity at the moment, and also his quality on the ball is very high. I think he's up there with just below Mo actually on sort of the minutes, how many minutes or however many minutes it is around sort of chance creation or things like that.
Yeah.
He's done very well this season. Yes, he's not fit. Robbo, yeah, I think all those things apply. Like your Liverpool legend, deserves a lot of respect. Fantastic kind of character to have in that squad as well, and you think really important for the youngsters, really important for Mo's happiness as well. So got to keep him around for that, just like Dejan and people in the past fulfilled that role. But for me, how it is that when Kostas is fit, he's the best option there. We can't expect Robbo to play the number of minutes that he's currently being asked to play without there being a pretty significant drop off in terms of his decision making through fatigue and his just inability. If he comes up against somebody who is a younger, faster, tricky winger, he's not going to win those battles anymore as often as he did anyway, and that's not his fault personally. So I've seen some extreme reactions online of people like really, for sure, being like incredibly disrespectful towards him and like put him in the trash heap. He's done all this crap. I think he deserves a lot more respect than that for sure. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, look, he's been on the wane for a while here. For me, what I would be doing is having a chat with him, like coming into the season, and just being realistic with him and saying, hey, look, your time as his first choice is sort of over now. If you're content with, being a rotation option here in the squad for the rest of your contract, whatever it might be, we'd love to have you, like, given what you've achieved, given your potential to mentor younger players. Everyone loves you at the club. We know all that stuff, and you can still do it. You can still do a job, but coming in every now and then as that option and getting a full energy Robbo for those minutes where he can come in rather than being like exhausted and us expecting him to be the Robbo of old. Yeah, for me, if he's content with that, I'd have no problem with it. I mean, I'd feel a bit differently about maybe an extension given his age, but I'd have no problem with him, like being here for another year, for example, and then us deciding to move him on. Or he might decide, no, it's not for me, that really. I'd like to play week in, week out. And then I think I'd like to see him either way, really. I'd like to see him leave Liverpool the way in which Bobby Firmino left Liverpool, right? I want him going out on a high, Anfield, standing ovation, like, guard of honor from the players, because that's what he deserves, right? So yeah, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic about who he is and what version of Robbo this is at the moment. It's not disrespectful to say maybe the Costas is a better option for now, but whilst we can't pick that option, let's try and give him as much support as possible, and let's have the squad realize that as well. If it's Curtis Jones on his side, it's not Robbo of old. Like, you need to double back and help him out a few times, right? You can't just rely upon him to do what he's always done.
Yeah, the will might be there, but if the legs aren't, it's not that difficult to understand. And it's funny, I was thinking that, like you said, it reminded me almost of, it feels like that Henderson moment's coming, isn't it? When the manager's going to sit you down and say, listen, you have probably slot a bit more bluntly than Jurgen Klopp, you'd suspect as well, very blunt, but you've got all this service, but you are second choice ultimately. I'm probably going to bring a new fullback in. Are you happy being the alternate? And obviously you have this influence, you are part of the leadership group. So Robbo's probably got that decision, you feel, to make. And just had a quick check there. He will have a year left to go
1 year
on his contract. So you do wonder, I mean, if everything's perfect, people, and we know it isn't in football before you say this, probably Tsimikas goes, he stays, he is the backup left back, whether we get a left centre back, a left sided, however you want it. But Robbo is the backup. And then it's a perfect freebie, sail into the sunset like Bobby, as you said there, not this summer, but next summer. Football never normally works that way, Harry, as we know. No. So my final question to you from the big decisions, because we've talked fullbacks there, we've talked the left side. Robbo and Tsimikas, both at the club next season, both leave, one stays. What are you thinking the club ultimately do?
I think one leaves. And I think, like you say, maybe the decision comes that it is Tsimikas, in that he's a more sellable asset. I mean, I hate to refer to players as assets, but let's be real. That is what they are to the football club at times. He's more sellable. I think there's value in the market for someone like Tsimikas, and I think you're losing another great character there, but again, someone who's not had the sort of same level of service as Robbo, and that kind of dynamic that you mentioned there, where, like, in a perfect world, how much value really is there from, like, selling Robbo with a year left? It's hard to gauge, really, especially at this stage in his career. Who is really going to be in the market? I'm sure there would be actually a few sides who'd pay a handsome amount for him, given how they spend. But I think, that situation where the new first teamer comes in, and Robbo sort of takes him under his arm a little bit and sort of like ingratiates him into the club, and it passes the torch over. Not that there's ever like any concerns about that player getting respect, but I think if you've got the co-sign of someone like Robbo, and someone like Robbo to actually help you settle in, I think it really helps young players, isn't it? So that would be the ideal, but as you say, it doesn't always work out that way. Just hope that Robbo can, that will and that desire that we mentioned, that, I mean, that's never diminished at all. That's still there. If that can carry him to the end of this season, so that conversation can happen after, I don't know, maybe the champagne reception at a Premier League winners kind of after party or something like that. That's the time you want to be having that conversation, rather than his lack of physical ability like costing us or anything like that. But he's had a rough time. We know he's not the kind of guy to concede consecutive penalties, red cards. I think he probably realizes himself where he's at in terms of his career. I don't expect a similar kind of reaction to what happened with Hendo, in terms of maybe ego finding it a little bit too hard to stomach that idea of not being first teamer. I think he could maybe be more of a Milner character, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And do you know what? Even if he did, I could see him, if he didn't fancy it, being more, I'm not saying mature is maybe the wrong phrase, but I can see him doing something like, no, I do fancy wanting to be, and it might be I'm theorising here, like a Celtic in his final year that, he moves to, something like that. But like you said, there's not much resale value there for Liverpool at the same time. So who knows? And ultimately, people, I know some of you will be shouting at home going, we've got to be ruthless and do this type of thing. And then I get that. We both want a fullback in or a left-sided defender, just to confirm. We're not doubting that. It's hard to see. I'm not sure it's good for the club if both Tsimikas and Robertson, as we both said, are both at the club next season. There needs to be an advancement there. But we will see what that happens. And like Hari says, isn't it perfect if it's a champagne reception, everyone's won the league, and then Rob makes a bit of a call that way? There we are, ladies and gents. We talked the transfer window. We said it is big. We really want a January boost both there, probably ideally in midfield because it's hard to see a left back. We said that Chelsea might be real rivals. There's question marks around the others. Do you see it the same? We said Gravenberch, absolutely brilliant. No one predicted this. Brilliant at centre-back now as well as brilliant at midfield. But Alexis McAllister is still Liverpool's most important midfielder when it comes to the big decisions. We said Diogo Jota, key to that supporting cast for Mo Salah. If he stays fit, it really, really could be the difference that way as well. We even said Trent, let's maybe not drop everything back to the contract talk. He may just have a bad game like anyone else. And Robbo, let's hope ultimately it's a decision that everyone's happy with at the end of the season. But we are struggling to see Tsimikas and Robbo both here next summer. Ladies and gents, pretty much there you go. At the top of the hour, we are done with our big calls. You may agree, you may disagree. Some made it quite clear in the comments they didn't get it or didn't agree with our decisions, but that is the nature of this type of debate. And because of that debate, that discussion, all it leaves me to say is, Hari, for the time, pal, for the insight, for the rationalisation, for everything around it, it is much appreciated.
Yeah, no worries at all. No worries.
Ladies and gents, that was another Big Decisions for Anfield Index.